So this is kind of step 2 of the process. Okay, instructions for the reimbursement. I believe that John and Rebecca kind of filled out this well, laid it out in their email, but the first step would be fill out the county's ACH form if you haven't already. The next step would be fill out the detailed expense worksheet breakdown in the process. And then that would be T6. T7 would be fill out the CARES eligibility application. And along with the reimbursement form, we're also asking for invoices and any additional receipts. So we need to be able to, for our audit, be able to check the reimbursement request against what's actually being received. And we're asking that these reimbursements be submitted to through the auditor's shared website. And if you have any questions, you can just reach out to me, and my contact information is there. What's happening after you have submitted a reimbursement? The county is working on a 7-day turnaround for the time you submit the application, and then the check should be issued. The auditor's treasurer's office will review the application for proper documentation. After the initial approval, it will be submitted on to the County CARES Act work group. And if the work group deems everything to be okay and all the paperwork to be in order, it will make a recommendation to move it to the county board. The county board will receive recommendation from the CARES committee, and after the county board approves it, the ACH will be processed and paid to the township. So pretty easy process once you get through the initial first couple steps. We have a deadline of reimbursement. We're asking all the townships to reimburse us, or reimbursement requests be submitted to us by November 25th, 2020. So pretty simple. Any questions? I know I've received a couple questions from the townships already, and I'm doing my best to get back to you as fast as I can, or with any responses or additional documentation that's needed.
A question for Heather or Bob. This is John. Can you lay out to the townships the 2 primary options that they have as far as how to go through the reimbursement process?
Well, there's really one reimbursement process. They could get the funding, hang on to the funding, and document their expenditures. Or if they want to get the funding and turn it over to us, Rebecca filled out a form showing them how to show how they gave that money to us, and then submit for reimbursements from us.
Like I said, we will process the applications as soon as we get them, and if you need help, I'm definitely open to helping anybody at doing the best I can and trying to give you guys the best customer service, and I look forward to working with all of you as I'm getting to know you guys.
Does anyone from the townships have any? I only see circles with initials here. So if you raise your hand, perhaps that will show up. But and then I can call on you. Yes. Is that JD? You have your hand up?
Yeah, hi, this is John Dietering from Rockford Township. Can I get you folks involved in a discussion about whether or not care funds can be used to help our residents with internet service? The COVID-19 has forced a lot of students and employees, people, to have to work from their home. And we sometimes have as many as 4 people in one household who need the internet at one time. And our service in Rockford Township is very spotty. And we are looking for some help either on hotspots or extension of service or anything we can do with it. Our folks are pretty desperate.
All right. Rebecca, do you have any insight into what would be an acceptable, would that be an acceptable expense?
Yeah, hotspots and increased Wi-Fi access, definitely an eligible expense, as it's obvious that more people are working remotely, distance learning. And so, the key to really justifying all these expenses is, was it necessary in response to the pandemic? This one is pretty straightforward in that you can directly link those together, right? So we've definitely seen that as being an expense that other local governments have been planning to use their CARES Act funding for. And so our interpretation of the guidance out there really says that those would be eligible.
That raises additional questions. May I ask another question?
Go ahead, John.
Uh, this is kind of a lengthy process, especially for, you take Comcast, you try to get Comcast to go an extra mile and a half, 2 miles. They go out and make an estimate for the job, and then they submit it. And even if they agree to it, I don't know that the work would be done by November 15th or whatever the deadline is.
Yep, so that's a good question. I don't know if Danny wants to weigh in on this, but actually, because if you are planning on turning it over to Wright County, now it should be incurred before December 1st. Now, understanding that you really need to turn in your last month reimbursement request, ideally by November 25th, but even at that point, you should know, right, if that's going to be in place before December 1st. For this CARES Act funding, it is fairly specific about it does need to be in place. Now, there are some caveats, if you will, where in the guidance it says now if it's delayed kind of as a result of the pandemic, let's say Comcast just can't get out there because they're just so overloaded with this. I think if you did all your due diligence to try to get it in there in place, that would, I don't want to say make a better argument, but ultimately it should be in place before December 1st, because it does say, these kind of telecommunication enhancements, if it's not really going to benefit the recipients until after the pandemic's over, well, then that kind of marks it as ineligible. So Danny, do you have any opinion on just the fact of the delay of them being able to get that in service and how that affects eligibility?
Right, yeah, just like you were saying. So if it's not going to be a benefit to the constituents prior to November 15th, it would be an ineligible expenditure from the township perspective. That's rather unfortunate, but that's what the guidance has said.
One of our options would be to pay for mobile hotspots. And I'm wondering if there's anyone at the county that could be helpful to the townships regarding broadband mobile hotspots or temporary solutions that might be available that we're not aware of.
Yeah, certainly. I'm sure that there's somebody in our IT department that would be able to provide some assistance.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do some further investigation on that, John, and see what we can come up with.
Okay, thanks.
See what would fit, the guidelines for the COVID Act, for the CARES Act. Kathy Schumann, you have your hand up.
Okay, my question is, I had worked with Jolene Foss to help figure out the numbers that are required in order to be part of this whole CARES funding. That would be the SAM account, the DUNS number, and a SWIFT user ID. Well, we managed to figure out the SAM account. We managed to figure out the DUNS number, but we ran into a roadblock with the SWIFT ID, which is through the state of Minnesota. And so I got a hold of somebody in the whatever department, and you just get someone that answers the phone basically, and then directs your question to someone to help you who emails you. So She said, well, we have a SWIFT user ID, and here it is for Monticello Township, but we don't see a user ID, so you're probably going to have to create that. Follow these instructions. And so I did, and there really are no instructions. It's very difficult to figure out. After a combination of trying different things, I've got a message back saying that our EIN number, which has been the townships forever, does not match the SWIFT user ID, and therefore I can't do anything else. So I noticed that the certification form itself that gets filled out requires a SWIFT user ID, but doesn't ask you for your EIN number. So I'm assuming that we could go, Monticello Township could apply, could certify to get the funds. And then, but I'm a part-time person. I'm a retired part-time person. I do many other things and I don't have the time to spend on all of this, even though the township's willing to pay me for doing this. And it's going through this whole process, not just what do we need to do to get money from the county, but what do we need? How can we make sure we have everything set up properly so that we can get the funds and turn them over to the county? How can we get help with that? Because I'm thinking I'm not the only township that is in this situation.
Yeah, it has not been an easy process for everyone. And I've heard that from another township. And Rebecca or Annie, do you have any advice or ways for them to simplify this process somehow to get past some of these hurdles?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're just quite limited in how involved we can be with that side of it, just because if you already have that user ID, the best thing to do is call their help desk or their, resource contact, which it sounds like you've done. So I'm sorry, Kathy, that it has been so difficult to get those lined up. But, I would say if you can just ping them again and just explain the situation, say, I need assistance, just kind of don't give up on, this is the problem. Now tell me the next steps on how to get it resolved. They should really help you, whether that means lining up those.
But there is nobody to call. There's nobody to talk to. And so my question would be, this 8-step outline, Township CARES Act funding process that was sent out as part of the meeting notice. So if I just go ahead and start with the first step is to complete the certification form and submit to the state. So if I just go ahead and start with that, since I have the SWIFT user ID that they said belongs to the township, because I cannot apply for another one. You can only have one. So the fact that the EIN doesn't match the number, I don't even know where to go with that. But should I go ahead and just try to get the funds? Because I don't have the time to spend on trying to figure out the discrepancy. I've only been in the township a year, so I don't even know where to go and find the documentation that they would probably say, well, blah, 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 blah. So, but should we just try? Should I just go through these steps? And who do I contact, though, if I get stuck? I check with Jolene again?
Yeah, so hi, everyone. I am on the line. I have worked with Kathy. I've also been approached by Nancy at Cokato Township, Malo in Rockford, Sharon in Victor Township, and Mark Hoffman in Buffalo Township. So everyone's kind of got one little speed bump each. We got one township that has Swift and Duns and no Sam, and we have one that has Sam and Dunn and no Swift, and we have one Swift and Sam and no Dunn. So we're trying to figure out these little speed bumps and roadblocks. Kathy, I will continue to work with you. I have suggested that they just go ahead and fill out the certification request form if they have the information for it and get that in. If they won't accept it, they'll come back to you with an email or a call and they'll say, you're missing this. And then they'll hopefully give steps again on how to find the missing.
Okay. Okay. So then, is there a point in time where, like, we have our next township meeting is on September 8th? Can we go ahead and proceed with that resolution to turn the funds over to the county? Or do you want us to wait until we turn the certification in?
Jolene, I don't know if you're still on mute. You're talking, but.
I'm sorry. Yes, I do believe that you should go ahead and put that resolution on your agenda in the hopes that the funds become available, because you don't want to have to push it for a whole nother month until October. You could just put it as a pending, pending the receipt of.
Okay.
So that would be my suggestion. I will continue to be available to try and help the best that I can. I'm not a 100% expert on every little bit of the Swift, Duns, and Sam, but I'm trying my best. And I know that between Rebecca and Heather and Bob and Lee, and Dan, we're all going to try to do our best to get that information to you. And I am available for us to continue this ongoing work.
Okay.
Yep,
All right.
This is Heather. I was
Thank
just
you
going
very
to
much.
add.
That's good.
Oh, this is Heather. I just wanted to add, yes, we'll work with you too, Jolene. We'll try, we'll get it done. We'll work together.
So, okay. So,
All right,
all right, I will listen now.
Thank you. We have a couple of hands raised that I see. MS, you have your hand up?
MS, is that Milo Scotting?
Yeah, he is too, but MS.
All right. Let's see. Can you hear me? This is Rochelle.
Okay. Yes, Rochelle, we can hear you.
Yeah, I've got my deputy clerk here, Melo Scotting, and she's been working on this. I think that I'll turn it over to her if she's got any questions.
I think we've got it. The Sam's number.
The Sam's number, I guess, is
And
what.
that's, yeah, we'll wait for you, Jolene, about that.
Again, I'm going to suggest that if you can fill out the certification request form, that we get that one filled out and try and get it sent in if we have the numbers to fill that out. And then we'll continue to work on getting the SAM or the SWIFT or whichever one it is that you're missing. I'll still be available for your help, Milo.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And John Dietering, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a rather unpleasant thought. Is there any chance that we're going to get to the end of this process having spent the money, and if we find out that CARES won't cover it, the township will be stuck with the expense? Is there some way to get pre-approval on a project?
Yeah, so definitely you can email me, this is Heather again, and we'll go through the pre-approval process if you feel comfortable and would like it pre-approved. Certainly we can work with that, but we can't actually release you the money until it's been spent. But
that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay, thanks.
Can I interject?
Rebecca?
This is Rochelle at Rockford Township again. John, I think you should just contact our office and I can show you where we're at with all the process.
Rebecca, did you have a comment?
Nope, that wasn't me.
Okay. For some reason, I'm seeing circles with initials, but for some reason you came up with a box with a circle. So I thought maybe you had a comment. Does anyone else have any questions? I know this hasn't been easy for everyone. I know getting the numbers and that kind of thing. And hopefully working with Jolene, who has been very willing to help with that process, has made it a little bit easier. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Or we, in the meeting?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
just so the township people know, I will be sending them out a copy of the PowerPoint from today, and we are recording it, and it will be up on the county website in probably a couple of hours.
okay,
Thank you.
that's great. Appreciate that, John. All right.
I do have one question or comment. I'm just wondering about our other friends in the other townships. And has there been any ongoing communication with those folks? Or is that something that you'd like the partnership to follow up on, or are you guys working on that, John, Bob, Heather?
I have been receiving other requests as they go and other questions or other people that might not be on there just contacting me directly. So.
Okay, all right. So just so that in case they miss the link, that they aren't in the dark.
Kathy, you have your hand up?
Kathy, you're on mute if you're speaking.
Did you have a question, Kathy?
Kathy, are you just waving at us?
There we go. I don't know. I didn't mute myself, but my microphone was muted. I was just asking John Holler, when you, at some point, could you provide us with a link to that web page where you're putting information? Then we can continue to use that as a reference.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Administrator Kelly, any closing comments or no? All right. All right, so everyone has contact information and, you know, please feel free to reach out. And so we can kind of keep navigating through this process. It's new to all of us, and we want to make this as seamless as we possibly can. Thanks, everybody, for helping.
Thank you, Commissioner Hewson.
Yep. Talk again.